Hey, what's up guys, it's Ben Ty here again, this time to bring you the new Maxwell GTX980. First up, when coming into unboxing this card, we have obviously the graphics power adapter we got here. It's a 6-pin to 8-pin, nothing special, just standard as always with every single graphics card it seems nowadays. Although nowadays I don't see much point in it because most PSUs have the already standard sort of power supply plugs. Drivers this next we're going to throw that away because we're not going to need that. Latest and greatest as always. Setup manual next, which just tells us what to plug into where, etc. Nothing special again. And last but not least, they include some stickers now to stick on the graphics card and show off some colours if you really want to do that. I like how it sort of already is, really minimal. It's got a bit of red to it already. Otherwise it's just a standard black graphics card with some silver piping for the heat pipes. Now to remove the foam packaging that's hiding the graphics card itself, and just like that, here she is. There's the beast itself, all nicely wrapped up, ready to be unwrapped. Take him out of the foam packaging, which is always very good. And straight away we agreed to do with the backplate of the card. It's a pretty standard Asus thing nowadays. Also, when you get non-reference cards, I'm pretty much sure it's the same sort of backplate as what was used on any other graphics card recently from them. And now to look at the front of him and those big two fans and the heat pipes and everything else behind it. So onto the specifications of the Strix, and it comes in at a base clock of 1127 MHz, it's boosted to 1216 MHz and has a memory clock of 7010 MHz. It comes with 4 GB of GDDR5, 256-bit memory bus and 2048 CUDA cores. The Strix offers 1 dual-link DVI port, 3 display ports and 1 HDMI port. As always, Asus makes a very nice looking card, with nice backplate included, and all the typical technologies involved as always, which is DirectCUII, which is always cooler and quieter, with 220% more heat dissipation, as well as the better performance, as well as being quieter. They have the silent decibel technology on board, which is meant for sort of menial tasks. It's supposed to be with the fans not being on at all. Asus also go on to say that the different 10-phase power design they include allows for better overclocking and more stability, and also greater durability over time. Let's find out later on when we overclock this and see how it goes. Straight into the installation of this graphics card, and straight away you see that the GTX780 is roughly the same size as the new 980. There's no real difference in size. I think the 980 is a little bit longer, but it's relatively the same. It's the same cooler pretty much as well. There might be some slight changes in it, but nothing great. In this case it's absolutely fine. You still have a good inch or two left of space before you'd actually not be able to fit anything in this, but I would be advised that in mid-tower cases you may find a bit of trouble in that. Same as the previous gen when it comes to power cables, you have an 8-pin and a 6-pin to connect. This graphics card doesn't actually take anywhere near the same sort of power. It's something like 165 TDP, so with that this graphics card should actually be a lot cooler. So maybe more overclocking room. Generally you're not going to need as much of the fan on percentage wise, so it should be a quieter experience as well as a cooler experience. Now with all the other components back in, time to test out this GTX 980 and some benchmarks. So first up we have Valley, a hardware stability testing tool, very good on GPUs, finding out if you've got stable overclock and whatnot. Has dynamic sky, volumetric clouds, ambient occlusion, all that sort of jazz. And first up we tried out the 780. It scored 2538 and had an average FPS of 60.7. Two of them on the other hand has 4662, not quite double but near enough, and that was an average of 112.8. Next up the 980, that had a score of 2820 and an average of 67.4. And then also I overclocked the 980, and that was 2947 score and 70.4. Now that isn't a great jump from the 780, but I would still say it's pretty reasonable considering that I now maintained it at minimum FPS of about 30. And you know, 30 is generally a nice figure to have if you can. Shadow model right now, and the average FPS on just one 780 alone, 68. Two on the other hand, 114. The 980, 82. Overclocked, 86. Not bad considering this game is relatively new. Also requires on Ultra 4GB textures, where with the 780 when I tried doing Ultra I would get little stutters. The presumption is that the 4GB VRAM included with 980 stopped the stuttering on Ultra. Next up is Thief. One 780 averaged 64. Two 780s averaged 100. 980, 83. And overclocked at 980, 87. Next up is Tomb Raider. 780, 41. Two 780s, 80. 980, 53.2, and on overclock 56. I like Tomb Raider very much because it seemed to give me the same results over and over. Never seemed to be any discrepancies. And finally, you may laugh, but Grid Autosport. Average for the 780 is 58. Average for two 780s is 118. The 980 stocks surprisingly came in at 110, and the overclocked 980 came in at 113. So there we have it, that's a single 980 GTX from Asus, the Strix version, and well, it's done a lot better than obviously the 780 like it should. Early driver stages as well, so it's pretty convincing already that it's a good deal better at least. Temperature wise it was good as well. I mean, I think I saw a maximum maybe 74 degrees maximum on the highest game sort of thing. That's with it being overclocked as well. Previously with the Asus on the other hand, that was stock from the 780 I should add. That was something like 76 degrees. With an overclock it probably would have reached more 80, which is okay, it's not ideal, but the temperatures sort of stack up. You put 2 or 3 of them in there as well. The temperature, the ambient temperature around the case is going to get warmer. You've got a bit of leeway before you hit that 80 degrees, at least with the 980 right now. Other than that, except for me overclocking it a little bit more, I didn't get a lot of chance to do an overclock on it. I just had to quickly go with it to get this video up. But there is some room, I know that for sure, to overclock it. It was a simple click, sort of like, look what other people have done with it, quickly put some things on. If it artifacted straight away, I dropped it down quite a bit just to get something that was stable and that worked. I will play, like I say, I'll be playing around with it some more, see what I can get overclock wise. But yeah, that's about it, guys. Good card. Is it worth the upgrade from anyone else's point of view? Not really. If you got two 780s or even a 780 right now, unless you're going anything like, obviously you're going max out 1080p, even then you're still doing good frames per second, generally speaking. Anything higher than that, maybe, because 4GB of VRAM is pretty useful to have. If you're using the VRAM for something else, like Sony Vegas, stuff like that, it's going to make it a bit quicker. Other than that, it's a step up, but only, like I say, power consumption, temperatures. I can't really say what else it can do. I mean, it seems to overclock pretty good as well. That could be just the card I've got. It may not. But yeah, that's it. It's a decent buy as well. Like, you look at the 780s when they first came around, they were like 560, I think I bought mine for when they first sort of came around. Now you look at that 980, I think that was 460, so you're 100 quid less. You're saving a lot in energy as well if you look at it from that point of view. The overclocking headroom seems to be pretty good as well. So yeah, it's a pretty good buy if you want a single performance, well-performing card. I mean, you could save yourself a lot of money if you trust SLI, you've used SLI before, and get two 970s and then do a lot better than the 980. Not, well, I say a lot better, quite, it was a good deal better at least. It's better than one 980 on its own. That's another route you could take with it if you've got a bit more of a budget. I'll probably get another 980 stuck in this thing later on. For the time being, I'll stay with one, see how it goes. Generally, it seems pretty good. Like I say, it was more just to try, see what 4 gig really does. Especially with a lot of games now, like Mordor, for instance, that was 4 gig of VRAM they recommend now. Other games are probably going to do the same trend at some point. Other than that, yeah, that's me done for this video anyway. Yeah, thanks guys. Catch you another time.